This is David with High Performance Stoicism. And I want to tell you, Stoicism isn't just one thing. Let me explain what I mean by that. Many people, especially online, will try to sum up Stoicism in the following way. They'll say, Stoicism is just following reason. Stoicism is just controlling your emotions. Stoicism is just acting on what's in your power. Now, all the people that make such a claim do correctly identify an important part of Stoicism. The mistake comes by thinking, by knowing this one thing and following it, you're really going to get Stoicism, or that by doing that, you will become the virtuous agent the Stoics talk so much about. Now, I'm going to talk about different things that people will say, you just have to do this, or this is all Stoicism is about. And I'm going to talk about them in order. And the first one many people will say is just focus on what's in your power, what's under your control, and then you get the idea of Stoicism. Well, that's partly right because that's what you have to do. But here's part of what you're missing. Why do the Stoics say some things are in our power and some things are not? They don't tell us, but I would say it comes from their view that we have a soul and we have a body, and they are distinct and separate things. And the only thing you really have control over is your soul, especially in the part that is conscious, the part that is also called the mind. So that's not going to work. And there's a bunch of other things that Stoicism is about. But we know it's not just about what's in your power and what's out of your power, because we have to talk about, just as the Stoics do, the things that are out of your power. Why are they out of your power? What is their nature? What do they do? What should we expect about them? Another thing that people will say is Stoicism is just about reason or following reason. And there's something of a better case for this position, because remember what Epictetus says: Socrates became fully perfect by not paying attention to anything but reason in everything he met with. Now, if you could just follow reason and nothing else, all right, you're going to be making some progress in your life, but some natural questions should emerge. Well, what kinds of things was Socrates thinking about with his reason? What did he believe based on his reason? And there are certain things that the Stoics and Socrates share, such as the good man cannot be harmed, but we still don't have a theory of, well, what is harm for the Stoics, or why can't the good man be harmed? You have to understand more about Stoicism to get that point. Another thing about it's just about reason, this is something that's crucial that Christopher Gill, in his recent book, Learning to Live by Nature, points out, and it's a central theme in his book. Yes, we should follow nature. That's a necessary part of being human, but we should also accept it's a key part of human nature that we are social. And if you think about it, we don't really develop our reason without being social. That's how we get language. Through dialogue, we learn how to reason well. And you know from Socrates how much he thought of reasoning and engaging in dialectic with other people. The Stoics agree on that. All right, so it's not just what's within our power. That's not the whole of Stoicism. Neither is it reason. What about virtue? Because that's missing from these other topics to a certain extent, unless you follow things through to other parts of the theory. Why do I say that? Talking about virtue, virtue is reason perfected. So when Epictetus said Socrates became fully perfect, he meant he became virtuous. So then we have to figure out what's the relation between reason and virtue. So virtue is the goal we're looking for. And there's a number of reasons for that. One of them is That's the only way to be happy. And just think about how much better your life would be if you were prudent, courageous, temperate, and just. Well, you would be an amazing person. So that is a great prize. But in order to understand what virtue is, we have to understand certain things like how we should relate to other people. That is, given our sociality, which I just mentioned, how do we make use of that information to become virtuous? And doing so is going to help us to be a just person. So, once again, virtue alone doesn't tell us what Stoicism is. How about harmonizing with your nature? Well, that's a good rule to apply. First, try to figure out what your nature is. It's rational, it's social, and it's already getting complicated. But follow this nature of yours and harmonize with it in all situations. Won't that give us the whole of what Stoicism is? And I think you're getting the pattern here. It won't, because according to the Stoics, and they say this expressly, we are to harmonize with our true rational nature, but we are also to harmonize with the cosmos as a whole. We're supposed to learn from the world around us and harmonize with whatever's going on. In other words, we do want to be fully rational, but it's not just about harmonizing with what reason in our mind tells us. It's also learning to live according to what reason sets up the world to be like minute after minute after minute. And that takes a lot of practice to get into a good flow with the workings of reason throughout the universe, and especially in our local place. Okay, one last try for something that will tell us what Stoicism is as a whole. We could just focus on that. That will explain everything. Nature. Live according to nature. Well, okay. Now you might be getting close to something that could tell us about everything there is to know in order to understand Stoicism and live by it. But it takes a while, even for someone who's really eager to know what nature is in Stoicism, to find out what it is. And here, just being real with you, consulting people who know a lot about it, professors. And so I could give it as an example a book I've mentioned before, John Seller's book, Stoicism. That's a great introduction. Okay, that will give you a good idea of what nature is, but all right, so it's not an easy thing to just think about what nature is and follow it, and especially because the Stoics have many very distinctive things to say about what nature is. So the overall lesson of going through all these different proposals for what Stoicism is, I think, is as follows. Epictetus is asked what he wants, and he says, I want to learn to understand nature and follow it. And following it is important, but one thing with many of the proposals I mentioned to notice is if you just say it's one thing, you're missing something in your understanding. So, following reason, following virtue, following what's in your power, all important things. I say I'll take them all into consideration and learn how to deal with all of them. But we also want to understand the world and to see how all these different things are connected. And that involves understanding Stoic theory. Now, one thing I want to say in this discussion is I am not discouraging anyone from trying to sum things up, trying to simplify things, because we learn a lot by each of these attempts. And if you are new to Stoicism, as many of you are, it's good to start with something simple before you get into more things. So don't take this as me attacking anybody or putting anybody down. We're all trying to learn, we're all trying to understand to live better lives. So keep the proposals coming, is part of what I'm saying. But here's a couple things to put things in perspective so you can understand both the importance of practicing on all these different things and better understanding the views of Stoicism, the theory of Stoicism. Understand this: human beings are complex. The cosmos is complex. Therefore, Stoicism has to, as it does, be complex to match what we're going for, match what will give us the true understanding of the universe, the true understanding of ourselves, and all the things we will have to follow. So it's a complex business, people. And the exciting thing for me, as I hope for many of you, is that there's more to learn. Just keep digging and keep trying to understand. So, one last thing to note is that I think here's the best way of seeing what Stoicism is. Stoicism is a giant, beautiful diamond. And some parts are take up more of the diamond, more space of the diamond, some sides, and some parts are more beautiful than others. But the whole thing is beautiful. And you could take one part of Stoicism, such as what's in our power and what's not in our power, and then from that angle, see many other important things in Stoicism. And then you could take up reason and see what that's connected to. Take up virtue and see what that's connected to. And what you want to do over time is get a better picture and perspective in your mind of the whole. And that is going to be crucial for living a great and beautiful life that Stoicism offers. So that's it for this video. Like, subscribe, give me a comment. I know you have one about this, and we'll see you in the next video.